Hello, friends, and welcome into Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports. I am Tom Downey. Today's video is a look at some potential post-June 1st cut and or trade candidates for the Bengals. If you don't know what post-June 1st means, it's a mark in the calendar. It's when teams are allowed to have players' dead money, the money they're already owed no matter what, spaced out over 2 years as opposed to 1 year. So basically, you get extra money since salary cap space can roll over at an interest-free rate. So we'll break down some of those potential cut or trade candidates. Begin with the obvious one. It's Joe Mixon, the running back. And I do think it would have been a much more likely outcome had the Bengals invested more in the running back spot this offseason. What we'll do for each of these players is show you the money if they were cut right this second versus the money that would be saved if they were cut or traded after June 1st. So for Joe Mixon, $7.29 million right now versus $10.04 million after June 1st. Now, you can designate a player post-June 1st, so not a ton of reason to wait, although maybe pay cut talks didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Joe Mixon's numbers have not been the best. He's been roughly a 4-yard per carry running back. Now, as we've said before, I think it is fair to blame the offensive line for a good portion of that. But the Bengals don't trust him that much in pass protection, but he's still solid. He is not a superstar player, but he is a quality running back. It's a matter of, hey, you could save $10 million. And if the difference is keeping T. Higgins or Logan Wilson for the next 5 years versus cutting Joe Mixon being without him right now, I think I know the path many of us and the Bengals themselves would also prefer, although I'm reminded of Duke Tobin's comments. I think it was on the Pat McAfee show. We're not going to move on from players that we might not have next year because we're trying to win right now or something along those lines. The big issue for the Bengals is who replaces Joe Mixon. Is it Chris Evans? Zach Taylor's hyped up Travion Williams, but Chase Brown is a 5th-round pick. I like him, but is he your locked and loaded lead back? I'm not so sure. Mixon, in the end, is only a cut candidate for the Bengals. $9.4 million base salary, which is what's owed to him this year, is not going to be picked up by a new team. No one's trading even a late day 3 pick to pay Joe Mixon $10 million. That's not how NFL teams are going to do business. So I would lean toward Mixon sticking around unless, what if like a Dalvin Cook gets cut in the next couple of days? And what if he'll play for like $5 million? Well, then he could save money and get a equal back. Just a hypothetical. We'll see what happens, of course, in the coming days. But what would you guys do with Joe Mixon? K for you'd keep him. C for you would cut him. We've had this debate quite a bit, but this is another chance to go have it. At the pinned comment of today's show, head down there and type in K for keep Joe Mixon, C for cut him. Lyle Collins is next up here. Now, I don't have the nitty-gritty in terms of what is injury guaranteed since Collins is coming off a significant knee injury, but there is money to be saved here if the Bengals don't think he's going to be their right tackle or if they don't think he's going to be healthy this year and they can get out of it from a contract perspective. Although, dumping good offensive linemen, Bengals know better than that. 6.05 pre-June 1st, $7.12 million after June 1st. Thought Collins was solid for the Bengals this year. I know there was some buzz of could you play him at left guard if you're going to make Jonah Williams your right tackle. The Cowboys, when they cut Lyle Collins, did not think he could play left guard anymore. And I don't know if that hip on top of the knee, the hip was an issue for Dallas, is still good enough for the Cowboys at this, or for the Bengals at this stage. It wasn't good enough for the Cowboys. So you have depth on the offensive line. I can't believe I'm saying that given where this O-line was. Credit to the Bengals organization for getting that changed around there. But that is a question mark. Can Collins play? And if he can't play and you can get out of the contract, it does start to make some sense to potentially cut him. I think the Bengals want to give him a shot, though, to get healthy. So name a player who you would like to cut. Now, I'll make note that all these names, I'm not advocating they all get cut. I am just presenting them as these are the options if you wanted to save some extra money, not that you have to do so. But sound off in the comments what player, if any, you type in none, do you want to cut if you were the Bengals? Stay on the O-line here, Jackson Carman. We mentioned that depth, right? If Lyle Collins sticks around, if Jonah Williams sticks around, if Max Sharping earns a job, if Cody Ford earns a job, well, that's a lot of linemen on top of your 5 starters that maybe you don't have the need for Carman, who I do think was better. small sample size, I know, this down the stretch this year. Not a lot of money to save right now, $1.37 million after June 1st. Of the guys who've gotten to so far, I wonder if Carman could be a training camp or maybe preseason roster cut-down time trade candidate, given his draft pedigree. Although Bengals don't make a lot of trades in general. Small sample size last year for Carman. He was much better. Much was made about his shape status, 2021, that was a bit of a red flag, but much better this past year for Carman. So he kind of helped the stock out, might make him some trade chip value there, but not a player you're going to be like, we got to cut him. He's a huge bust. I know he showed enough last year in a small sample size to buy him at minimum some more time, if not continue to be a developmental piece for the Bengals. Sam Hubbard is next up here. Again, I want to emphasize, not advocating, but there is a big difference in the money here, pre and post June 1st for the Moeller boy. $3.97 million pre-June 1st, $7.97 million if it comes in after June 1st. So there is some significant savings there in the Sam Hubbard category that makes it worth discussing from that perspective. That when you jump $4 million in savings, that is significant. And I do like Sam Hubbard. I mentioned the Moeller side, the local Cincinnati kid. And I grew up like 15 minutes away from Moeller High School. And I thought he has played well the past 2 years. 6.5 sacks, 7.5 sacks, a down 2020 campaign, 8.5 sacks. At a certain point, though, if you're going to be 7 sacks a year, remember the Bengals drafted Myles Murphy in round 1. Now, they spent a premium pick on an edge rusher. They have Joseph Ossai. More on him in a little bit. They have Cam Sample. They have Terrell Basham. I doubt the Bengals carry 6 defensive ends / edge rushers, even if Ossai can do some outside linebacker stuff if you had to, and you can kick some guys into the defensive tackle role if you need to there. But the presence of Myles Murphy, if he balls out early on, man, maybe you want to free up some money because I doubt you're going to even consider moving on from Trey Hendrickson. Now, we will have more Bengals videos for you all off-season, in-season, preseason as well, long. So make sure you are subscribed. YouTube.com/Bengals TV for more free videos. Let's get to the other edge, Joseph Ossai. We mentioned 6 edges there. That's a numbers game that might not add up. Now, maybe it ends up being Cam Sample, but, he doesn't carry the same amount of monetary savings. 1.13 at the Bengals. I would say trade as opposed to cut Joseph Ossai. Former third-round pick out of Texas. There's value there. There's value from that perspective in potentially adding Joseph Ossai to your roster. 10 quarterback hits last year, so not the biggest impact from that perspective. But there is value, untapped value from that perspective as things sit with Joseph Ossai. The numbers game is not the best. It's just not, especially with Myles Murphy now in tow. So someone might be on the outside looking in. Ideally, Ossai plays great at training camp in the preseason, and you just go deep at defensive end anyway. Now, we mentioned Myles Murphy. His jersey is available on Fanatics. I know it says 1. It's the pre-order number because they're not all plugged in quite yet. Go to chatsports.com/Myles Murphy. That link's in the comment section and the description of today's show. So check it out and get your Myles Murphy jersey right now. The other 4 names we'll discuss here, some with differing lengths. Players whose numbers don't change pre or post June 1st because they're in the final year of their deal. Jonah Williams is not a cut candidate. He is only a trade candidate. $12.61 million base salary is fully guaranteed. No savings if he is cut. Only savings if he is traded. I would suspect that no one wants to give Jonah Williams $12.6 million coming off of, frankly, not a good enough year. He had a down season. He wants to play left tackle. The Jags and Bengals had trade talks at the deadline, during the draft, never came to fruition. I wonder if it was the money or if the Jags wanted a player, which wanted to take Anton Harrison, whatever. Maybe Williams was their fallback option. Either way, I don't think it's of interest right now. Now, it could change. What if a team loses their left tackle early on? What if a team like the Niners lose Trent Williams and they're desperate for a new left tackle, not cheering for injuries? Maybe at that point they could be a bit more aggressive, and there would be a team willing to take on Williams' contract. So he's not going to be traded or cut, but maybe ends up getting traded. If a team comes through with a good offer and Lyle Collins is healthy, all that stuff, would you still consider trading Jonah Williams? Y for yes and for no in the comments section. Tyler Boyd is next up here. Again, there's big money savings with a trade or a release, but he's also a great number 3 receiver. So unless you're doing something wonky and getting like DeAndre Hopkins, we talked about on yesterday's show, links in the comments and the description of today's one, there's no need to dump Tyler Boyd. This is who I think in particular Duke Tobin was talking about when he said, we're not going to move on from a player who might not be here next year because we want to win games right now. That screamed Tyler Boyd. You drafted Charlie Jones. I think this is Boyd's last year in Cincinnati, barring takes a big-time pay cut to come back, which is fine. Keep him and try to win football games right now. 2 other smaller names here in terms of the money saved and impact. Josh Tupou would save $1.42 million if cut. And then Trent Taylor, the potential immediate replacee for Charlie Jones. I think that's the right terminology. $1.04 million if he ends up getting cut.